Welcome everyone to another episode of Thriving Talk. This is a Dadson edition in which me, Tim, get to sit down with my dad, Tinku Thompson, to talk about different things. It's really great to sit down with you for another episode, Dad. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Had been a little bit under the weather, but otherwise doing great and looking forward to another episode with you. And especially I was looking at some metrics and I saw that people from different countries are actually listening to our podcast. So glad that the driving talks we do, and we try to keep it very simple. It is reaching many people. So I'm looking forward to today's episode.
A quick reminder to all our listeners, Thriving Talk is available on major platforms like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and more. So for today's topic, we're going to talk about technology addictions and how technology can become addiction. So as an introduction, what do you say is like a simple definition for technology and addictions?
Technology addiction. Okay, that's a good one. Let's think about addiction for a second here before we go into the technology addiction. See, addiction is a little bit unique in the sense that a person who is addicted will not realize it or will not think that it's bad in many cases, not in all cases. And, only after somebody comes out of it that they will figure out that their addiction has caused a lot of damage in their life. And technology is also one area where people can be addicted, even though it is a good thing, and it can be used in many ways for betterment, for making our lives better, but still there is a lot of dangers lying there. So yeah, you could be addicted to technology, and technology addiction is a real thing.
So can people be addicted to technology? Is it not just using and not being addicted?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell, right? Yes, people can be addicted to technology. Yes, absolutely. When do you say something is addicted, right? Or you get addicted to something is when you cannot control the use of it, and you crave for it, you need it, and you lose time because of that, or your health because of that. In the same way, people, most of the time they are using it, but they get addicted to it. For example, somebody may start their laptop or a computer to do something good, and all of a sudden they stumble upon something and they keep going before they realize that they have spent. So same way with social media too. They may spend some time trying to see something, and all of a sudden they realize that it's been 3 hours. They have lost it, right? So yes, you can use it without being addicted, but there is also a big chance that you are addicted while you are trying to use it, and that can be very harmful.
So right now we talked about like addiction to technology being a bad way, but how can we use technology in like a good way?
Yeah, I want to actually take our attention to something from the Bible. 1 Corinthians 6, chapter 6, verses 12, it says like this, I am allowed to do anything, but not everything is good for me. And even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to anything. I should have said that a little earlier, but just remembered that. So what does it mean is, even though certain things are allowed or it's okay, but it's not good, right? So I think we need to really see whether something is really good to us. A lot of times people will say, what is the harm in it? There is nothing sinful about it, but more than that, we have to make sure that we don't become slaves to anything. Now, the question is, again, what was your question?
How can we use technology in a good way?
Yeah, technology used in a good way. You see, there is even what we are doing right now. This podcast is a result of technology's good use. the computers we use, the phones we use. If you're going somewhere, the GPS navigation we have. I think in your studies, schools, I remember until I reached my college, there was very less use of computer. I remember that we learned a little bit computer, and there used to be a lab in the school I studied, and we go there for 1 hour in a week and then do certain things. But now, it has brought a lot of innovation, a lot of technological advancements.
In this world, that would just be out of the normal.
Yeah, that would be absolutely. So there is a lot of good use. There has been a lot of things which has happened in the medical field. And you take any field, right? So that there has been a lot of good things which has happened as a result of technology, and definitely we can use it for our good. There is a lot of automation which you can do using technology. There is a lot of efficiency which can be brought in our own lives and at our workplaces by the use of technology, even at home, right? And the gadgets we have, if it is used in the right way, it can really help us. So, absolutely, technology can be used in a good way.
So, we've talked about, like, the main topic is technology addiction. Mm-hmm. So how can technology become an addiction, and how would we avoid it?
Yeah, so if you really think about it, right, I don't know at your age you understand this, but if you ask someone who has lived a life long enough that they had times in their life where technology was not advanced, or maybe there was less technology, most of the time I hear that people say now people are more busier than ever. People used to have more free time earlier, even though there was a lot of manual thing they had to do, a lot of manual work they had to do. But now it seems like we have machines to do a lot of the work which people used to do manually.
Isn't the whole point of technology to make things easier?
Yeah, it makes things easier, but somehow we have fallen into the trap that's where the addiction comes. That's where I wanted to draw our attention to. For example, there was a time when there was no phone call. There was no phone, right? You don't call anybody, but you go and meet them. But then, there was a time when landline phones used to be there. So what happens is, you call someone, talk. But now you can text a whole day, you can spend a whole day, and a lot of times people don't have time for anything. They don't have time for family. So I think you might have seen some pictures where a lot of people are standing in a bus station, or and then you see that everyone is looking at their phone, right?
Yeah.
Or a lot of people are sitting in the metro transit, or subway, but everyone is looking in their phone. And the worst case is where a family is sitting for dinner and everyone, including the kids, are looking at their own gadgets, right? Father is looking at the phone, mom is looking on her phone, kids are looking at their iPads. So that is also a problem. So now, as you asked about the addiction and how to avoid it, there are a few things we need to realize. Technology can make you lose focus in life. Sometimes you can be so focused on the next text message, the next phone call, email, or the next notification that you miss out on the time you could have used for something else more beneficial. Maybe you could have spent that time with your family, or going outside with friends and playing, establishing strong relationships, but you could focus on doing better at school, maybe doing your studies, but a lot of times people get simply distracted. And I hear about stories of young kids spending the whole night not sleeping, texting, right? Or chatting and all those things. So if we are not diligent in putting away our phone and other electronics, and spend our time and energy on people that are around us and things which matters, then we are going to miss out. And ultimately it can also lead to a lot of other issues, like there is a higher chance of depression. If you are using too much of technology, it can lead to mental issues too. So because a lot of times online people put fake realities, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes some people will think that, oh, everyone else is so happy, I'm the only one who's having issues and all those stuff, right? So that is one thing, but there are many other issues which are related to our emotional, mental health, which can be impacted with the use of technology. And then, of course, people can get addicted to playing games, and then some games are very dangerous because it actually promotes violence and it promotes crime, and then people can actually get addicted in such a way, and then sometimes they can transition or they can move out into actually doing those things. So that's another problem, you know. So rather than playing with family, friends, you may end up playing for hours on the computer. So that could be another challenge, or computer or some other gaming devices. So all those things are there. The other thing is the issue of alternate reality. And so when you're playing a game or doing something online, you are thinking about that more than what is happening really in your life. So what happens is that impacts our relationships in real life, and it impacts our ability to communicate with others. So there is a lot of bad effects of that which can take place. So yes, there is a lot of bad side to this, but there is also a way out of this addiction. So I think you were asking how to help yourself out of it, right? So it is hard. So addiction, when somebody is addicted to something, it's not only just technology, it's hard, it's not easy, but it is not impossible. The first step in our life should be to acknowledge that we have a problem. Unless and until we don't acknowledge we have a problem, we will never be able to understand it. So if you have a phone, you can look at how much screen time, average screen time you use daily. Actually, it is available in most of the devices nowadays. And then very soon you realize that, I spend like 10 hours with my device on, and out of that, you may realize 5 hours on YouTube, and 1 hour on Twitter, and 2 hours on Facebook, or it could be any number. So that becomes a problem. So that is very important that we recognize our problem, and then we seek out other people's help when needed. You do not have to deal everything on your own, but you can help and be accountable as you try to overcome addictions, especially the technology addictions. And then you have to persist. Sometimes you may lose focus again, but then you have to come back, and it can take some time. And then I think what happens is once you try to get out of it and then you realize the benefits, that's a time when you will have more motivation to do it. So what I would say is, yes, it's possible to get out of it, but the number one step is to have that realization. And for a child of God especially, we have to again value the time we have in this world, and it comes back to the fact that are we using our time to fulfill the purpose of God through our life, or are we just wasting it on things which have no eternal value? So
yeah, when you talked about the alternate reality, I read a book about this kid. He had a video game where there's a pet, and you had to pay money to make the pet happy. So he's begging his mom for money, but the mom won't give it. So just wanted to.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it was a game, or it was in the book? The story was the real. He was playing a game.
So the kid was playing game, and it's in the book. The kid was playing the game. The pet won't be happy if you don't buy more things with them. So just spending too much time on that video game. Okay. Yeah. So for the next question, I want to ask, there's a lot of bad things on technology, really bad things. So how do we make sure we don't see bad content?
Yeah, so you are right. There are one of the big danger of, or one of the biggest challenge in my view of technology is that there is a lot of inappropriate material on the internet, and a lot of bad stuff, a lot of bad websites, a lot of things which can negatively impact people and lead people into wrong places, right? And there are this availability of all these things have caused many young children and students to get addicted to such type of things. So it is very important that we realize that there is a bad content, and then bad content is there to trap us. So nobody is actually doing it for charity or for the goodwill, but they are doing it mostly because they have some hidden agenda. They may give some free content, and then they will ask you for money, like you are telling the story.
Yeah.
And what happens is these bad content will really impact our purity, and it will also impact our relationships. You may feel like nothing is wrong, but it will have a long-lasting effect on our emotions and our, mental health and other things. So, and plus it also has, it's another important factor is it is sinful too.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful that what we watch, and there are many technology options available to prevent those things from coming, but nothing is 100% secure in a sense, like everything can be completely vetted out. But I think what we need to do is, of course, we should put measures to prevent bad stuff from coming to us, but at the same time, we should also be having this commitment that, as Job says in the book of Job, Job says that I have made a commitment with my eyes that I will not look at bad things or things like that. So we need to have that commitment in our life, and we need to actually be very open and truthful about the fact that bad stuff comes. So let me ask you a question. You had been using computer for few years now, I guess, and iPad, after the COVID started, that's the time you really got into it. And nowadays you use more, and without you wanting or realizing, have you encountered any time where there was bad stuff coming?
Yeah, when you look through your, on YouTube, how you go through your recommended page, more than half of the percent of things is inappropriate stuff.
Yeah. So that we can do certain things to prevent that from happening, but at the end of the day, it is not 100% good. So somebody like you could continue to use YouTube Kids. Yeah, because that content is more moderated. But I know that even some of the things which your school recommends are not in the YouTube Kids, but sometimes some of those videos may be in the normal one, and then when you go there, it can lead. And then the other thing I've found is sports people may not be bad in themselves, but you try to watch one video, and that can have there may be many more videos which are not appropriate. So that can all come up. So, but we have to be very mindful, because if we end up watching and spending time doing that, first of all, you will get addicted to it. Number two, it will have a long-term effect on our own life. It will destroy us. So, when we talk about this topic, that is something which we need to be very mindful and acknowledge that that's a real issue.
So, how has technology changed, and how is it changing?
Yeah, technology has changed. It is changing in the last few decades. The amount of growth we have seen in the technology field, and even today, what's happening is mind-blowing. Right? It's really awkward. Like when I was studying what was happening, and today, I can't imagine when I was studying that we will all have an iPad. Even iPad didn't exist at that time. We could not even think of it. The computers used to be like big ones. We could never imagine that we will have a computer in our pocket like we have the smartphones nowadays, right? So it is changing, but at the same time, it is changing for good, as I said in the beginning, for in many areas like medical, scientific innovations in many other places, right? It is helping in many ways, but at the same time, it is also designed in many cases to make us consume it more and be more attached to it and to trap us and all those things, right? So we have to be careful. So yeah, it is growing, and I think it will continue to grow. There is still a lot of potential in some areas. I don't know how our cell phones will get better, because I just feel like they can add like 5 cameras, or maybe a whole back of the phone maybe full of cameras, but there are and then you don't need all those things, right? So but
yeah, that's my thing. Like the more you had cameras, the price of the phone's more expensive. But how much of a really drastic difference does it make? Because like you don't take that many photos.
yeah, for me it doesn't make any difference. I'm fine with one camera, but maybe a photographer or somebody who knows how to use all those things, a very small percentage of the people, right, the population who uses it, they may know it better. But my point is, yeah, there are certain technologies where we have reached a point and some breakthrough innovations have to take place. But there are other places where a lot of new things are happening. Especially I write and share about AI, artificial intelligence, that I have a blog, Theology AI. And there I share sometimes as I see some innovations which are, interesting. I share that there. So you come across a lot of innovations, technologies, and robots doing surgery and different things. So it's definitely helping in many areas, but at the same time, it is also it also has its own bad effects.
Yeah, so technology like a wide thing you can talk about, and
I will give you one example, right?
yeah.
So at the beginning of this, I think the podcast I said, we have people from different countries. I don't remember all the countries, but not just US or some Asian countries, but even from Africa and other places. They have listened to our podcast, some episodes. See, if the technology was not there, we can't imagine going and all these places and doing this again and again, right? But because of the technology, we just do it once, and now this is available. If all the people from even 100, 150 countries want to listen to this, it's available. So definitely a lot of good things, but a lot of bad things too.
So thank you for sharing that. And technology is like a big topic. There's many bad things to it, but very many good things to it too. So I want to thank you for sharing. And to all our listeners, thank you for listening. In the coming weeks, we'll be coming back with more Dadson editions of Thriving Talk, and I'll be asking more questions. As we said in the beginning, this episode is available on many different platforms. Do not forget to follow or subscribe to the Thriving Talk podcast on your favorite platform to receive notifications as new episodes get released. Also remember that my dad has a weekly newsletter in which he shares a lot of good information. The link to the newsletter will be in the show notes. Feel free to subscribe to the newsletter. We'll be back, but until then, remember or make sure to use technology in good ways and appropriately.
Yep. And I want to conclude by reminding you that verse I read in the beginning, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12, it says, I'm allowed to do everything, but not everything is good for me. And even though I am allowed to do anything, I must not become a slave to it. God bless you.